On April 19, 1995, there were two FBI bomb technicians stationed in Oklahoma City when the federal building collapsed. This marked the largest domestic terrorist attack in U.S. history. Today, we have one of the master bomb technicians with us in studio. Thanks for watching Sooner Stories. I'm Michael Buchanan. OU Nightly reporter Lyndon Potter sat down with former FBI agent Barry Black. Barry retired after 31 years of service in the FBI, serving as an accountant, SWAT sniper, counterterrorism instructor, and a master bomb technician. Lyndon, take it away.
Well, thank you, Michael, and thank you for joining us. And thank you, Barry Black. It's an honor to have you here. I want to thank you for not only what you've done for Oklahoma, but America and the world as a whole. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure to join you. Thank you.
So I've been learning your story over the last 2 months, and I think the real way to understand it is to start at the beginning. So how does a kid from around Birmingham, Alabama end up as an FBI special agent?
You know, I wanted to be an FBI agent since I was a kid, all the movies, TV shows, but I had a little league coach that was an agent. So he inspired me. I kind of followed him. He answered all my questions. Then when I got to college, he put me in touch with a recruiter, and that's sort of what got me started.
So you went to the University of Alabama for accounting, is that right?
Well, I started at UAB, and I was in engineering. And when my coach put me in touch with the recruiter, she said, yeah, we're not hiring engineers. We're hiring accountants and lawyers. Of course, law school's 3 more years of college. So they had a kind of a shortcut route for accountants. If you got an accounting degree and could pass the FBI's accounting exam, they would waive that next requirement, which was 3 years of work experience. So in theory, I could get in a lot quicker. And I got in when I was 24.
So you get in as 24, you're FBI with an accounting major. What happens then?
The oil bust in the 80s here in Oklahoma sent most of the accountants to Oklahoma and Texas. I worked white collar crimes, bankruptcy fraud, bank fraud, those things that are really associated with the oil bust and the bank failures. But my training agent, we're on probation for about a year. He was a sniper on the SWAT team. And that sounded a little more exciting than working bank fraud. So I got on the SWAT team, became a sniper, and that sort of changed my path.
So, and then you got married to your wife.
Right.
Go on your honeymoon. You get back from your honeymoon, and there's some pretty big news.
Yeah, we were gone. We were overseas, hadn't seen the news. We were unpacking from our honeymoon, and one of her bridesmaids called and said, hey, are you guys okay? We heard some agents were killed. Well, I hadn't seen the news, so I flipped on CNN, which was really the only coverage then, and I saw the events in Waco, where another agency had attempted to execute some warrants. Big firefight, some agents were killed, and as we're watching the news, we had a pager back then. That was the height of technology. My pager went off with the SWAT team call out, and we went to Waco.
So walk me through when you get to Waco, after knowing what you've been briefed on. What is your thought process once you get to the Branch Davidian standoff? Well,
we were briefed by a member of the other agencies. It's called SRT, their Special Response Team. He was a senior team leader, still wearing his, we call them BDUs, the battle dress uniform. And he had taken a shotgun blast from an upper story window. So his story was an eye-opener, and he described the ferocity of fire and the types of weapons the Branch Davidians were known to have. So we called up some armor from Fort Hood, Bradley fighting vehicles, not for the weapons, just for the armor. And we made our way down this very long dirt road, well within the range of these 50 caliber rifles the Davidians had, and waited. Obviously negotiations were preferable, but after 51 days, they had failed, and it ended with the fire everybody's seen in TV and movies.
Would you call this a wake-up call in your career as now experiencing something like this after joining the FBI?
Well, it was unprecedented. This type of thing had never happened before. Our hostage rescue team was deployed out of Quantico, but because of this, it doubled in size. There had just never been anything like this. So to be the first major event was obviously unique, but unprecedented things kept happening, the bombing here, 9/11. So it was the first of a series of kind of unique situations.
Well, I guess the next in that series would be the Oklahoma City bombing. Sunday marks the 31st anniversary of the bombing. So 31 years ago, on April 19th, you're at Tinker Air Force Base, is that correct?
Right, which is about 7 linear miles from downtown.
So explain at 9:02 a.m., what were you doing? What was your reaction?
I was still on the SWAT team. I'd become a bomb technician by then, just 53 weeks before. And we were looking for a fugitive that we thought was going to come out of a certain building on the base. Heard the explosion. It registered 3.2 on the Richter scale. Of course, it's flat here in Oklahoma, so I looked over back towards downtown to the west, and it was already covered in a big cloud of smoke. My pager went off. Our secure radio in the car said, basically something's happened. But terrorism was not in the forefront of people's minds. There had been the first attack on the World Trade Center, international terrorism, and that was unique as well. But we were initially thinking airplane crash or gas main explosion, something more common. But we got downtown and it was obvious it was a large vehicle-borne IED.
So when you get to downtown Oklahoma City, I want to know your perspective viewing the damage in the scene. I want to know your perspective as a husband, because I believe your wife was there the same day, correct?
Right. That's how we met. She was a federal probation officer. So we got married, and then I was gone to Waco. I got back from Waco and went to bomb school at the Hazardous Devices School in Huntsville. So I was gone a lot in the first little bit of our marriage, but she was in the building. She left at 9 o'clock. It's the grace of God, she's still alive. She drove out of the west exit, drove right by the bomb. I didn't know any of that until about an hour and a half later. But yes, she was there, and we knew people that didn't survive, which makes it kind of a personal event.
Yeah. And then I want to also know your perspective as the FBI bomb technician. You show up to the scene of the crime. What is your immediate thought process as to evidence and to collection of data?
We had been trained in post-blast investigations. The Bureau's Evidence Response Team, or ERT, is basically what people know as CSI today. It was brand new. I was able to be a founding member of our Evidence Response Team. So we got those specially trained agent support personnel together. And as the bomb technician on the scene, mine was to just try to get a sense of what had happened. Of course, that 32-foot crater in the street was a pretty good clue. But I was up on the second story of the building with a highway patrol trooper when that what's known as the second bomb scare occurred, yes, which delayed rescue for about a half hour. But it was just the magnitude, the scale and scope of the devastation was nothing that I had seen before and really hadn't been seen in this country before.
For sure. So that second bomb scare, walk me through that process. And so people were running out of the building, right? And that's how you first found out about the scare? Right.
So the FBI certifies and trains all the non-military bomb technicians in the country, and we have great relationships with our military partners. But as I said, I was on that sort of the second story where the kids' playground was, trying to get a sense of the blast pattern. And it's chaotic, it's loud, there's a lot going on, but I noticed a lot of the first responders flee in the building. Well, we train first responders to look for secondary devices, particularly in an event like this, but it didn't register immediately. So about that time, a helicopter was coming around from the south, which is where more of the tall buildings are, and I thought the helicopter was going to crash. That was my initial thought until I heard the phrase second bomb, which was disconcerting. And the standard operating procedure for bomb technicians and first responders is to get out, evaluate the situation, take care of that second device so that rescue efforts can continue.
Yeah. For people like myself who wasn't born at the time or wasn't in Oklahoma City, how would you describe this cataclysmic event that happened here?
Well, a lot of things have to happen at once, and we've trained for smaller events, but this was just a matter of scale and scope. So resources were brought in from across the country, and it's a scalable event. So our state and local partners with whom we train and have relationships, which are key, did what we could do as more national resources came in. But the community came together in ways that was really unprecedented. That's what they call the Oklahoma Standard now.
Yeah. How would you describe like the scent and the smell of the event once you got there?
Well, when I arrived, I got as close as I could without getting into the debris field. And again, my job was to kind of get a sense of that, what happened, what are we looking for? Of course, you need to start thinking about getting residue samples for chemical analysis and physical evidence, what brought the bomb there. I did do what we call a perimeter survey. It was just walk the area to try to get an idea of what was going on, and really was looking for my wife or any information about her at the same time. But very quickly, myself and my partner, Jim Norman, the other special agent bomb technician, were called over to what's called the rear end differential housing, or the axle of a truck. It was clearly very close to the seat of the blast, the point of detonation. And the deputy wiped away some grease with his finger and exposed a confidential vehicle identification number. And that's really what jump-started the investigation.
So with that number, you were able to trace the truck back to Ford,
Right.
and then Ford to the company,
Ryder Rental.
Ryder,
Price.
and then back to Kansas where it was rented from.
Correct.
So then break down, so Timothy McVeigh was using aliases. Break down how you were able to uncover that it was McVeigh going through all these names that he was using.
Well, it wasn't me. There were 1,400
Okay.
people that worked this case. I did my small part, but basically that CVIN we recovered, we didn't have cell phones that worked at the time, so Jim and I both wrote it down. He tore his little note off and gave it to a runner who physically took it to the command post, and we were able to trace that to Ford, who said that confidential VIN belonged to a VIN for Ryder Rental. Ryder said it belonged to Elliott's Body Shop in Junction City, Kansas. So the command post sent agents and our partners to Elliott's Body Shop and asked, that first question, who rented this truck? Mm-hmm. And he pulled the contract. It was a man named Robert Kling. And of course, nobody had digital imagery like we're used to now. So we had a sketch artist go up and got a sketch of what we call John Doe number 1. But Eldon Elliott also remembered a second man who he thought might have been there at the same time. So that was John Doe number 2. We published those sketches and got nearly 16,000 leads just based on those sketches.
So, and then eventually the address is tracked down to Decker, Michigan, and McVeigh is identified. And then, so you look up McVeigh to find out where he is or where he could be, and he's already in jail.
Right, so using the sketches, we sort of saturated the small little town there by Elliott's, and there was a woman named Leah McGowan at a motel, Dreamland Motel, and she recognized John Doe number 1, said he had signed in under the name of Tim McVeigh. So we were looking for McVeigh or Kling, the two names he had used. One of the addresses did come back to Decker, Michigan. That belonged to the Nichols family. So we started looking at the Nichols family, identified Terry Nichols as an Army friend, Army buddy. So we did what's called an offline NCIC search for the name Tim McVeigh and found that Trooper Charlie Hanger had arrested him the day of the bombing in Perry, near Perry, Oklahoma. And he was sitting in jail up in Perry.
Describe the feeling of knowing you have this suspect and knowing he's already in custody.
Well, it expedited things, right? I mean, it took 10 years to get bin Laden. I think we were looking for him by name, so the FBI has a lot of resources. I think he would have been found, but it was much easier to fly up and take him out of local custody into federal custody.
Right. So following your time in Oklahoma, talk just through the next parts of your career.
Well, I was fortunate to stay in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma City. Sorry.
Right, it's a great place to live, and usually the FBI tends to move its agents around some, but just the way things worked for me, I was able to stay here, which I was very fortunate. But I worked the bombing for about 2.5 years, and it's a grueling process. As I said, there were about 1,400 people assigned to just that investigation for about 840 days. It was a major investigation. But there are only about 200 FBI bomb technicians in the FBI at any one time. And even though this was a massive priority investigation, the Bureau still had other responsibilities. So my group leader at headquarters said, look, we know you've been working 6 or 7 days a week for, at that time it'd been a little over a year. They said, we need a team leader at the Olympics in Atlanta. We know your family's still in Birmingham. So why don't you go run a team in the soccer venues in Birmingham as a break? Like, well, great, that sounds good. So I went to Birmingham, and of course, then the bombing in Atlanta happened. Yep. And I was sitting at a little cafe with some Olympic officials, and the bartender came out and said, hey, what about the bomb in Atlanta? I was like, hey, man, that's not funny. He goes, no, really. And he turned on CNN, and my phone rang. We had phone by then, and they said, get to Atlanta. So I went and supported that operation through the ending ceremonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What year was Atlanta?
96.
So 96, and then flash forward 5 years later, and you're in New York on September. Were you there on the 11th?
No, I was here on the 11th.
Yeah.
I was driving through our outer security gates, heard on an FM station a plane had hit the Trade Center. Well, back after World War II, a plane had hit another
Yeah.
building in New York, and it's horrible, but again, nobody thinks terrorism, particularly that kind of an asymmetrical attack. But by the time I got into our building, the second plane had hit, and then everything else was going on. I went into our emergency operations center, and there were reports of a bomb outside the Pentagon. Well, that was the other plane. Information gets jumbled in these situations, but we secured our facility. There was a national plan in place for a response to this type of attack. But Lenny Hatton, the FBI's bomb technician in New York, was killed. He went into the building to try to rescue people and was killed in the collapse. He was a great guy, former Marine. But the Bureau sent 4 of us to support the FBI office. So I was at Ground Zero, spent weeks up there. Again, a horrific sight. Just the magnitude, the scale of the destruction was just unbelievable.
What from Oklahoma City did you learn and take to New York City?
Experience. You know, these events are unusual and massive. Again, New York was about 14 acres of just absolute destruction. But when they're long days, right? So it's the sounds of the jackhammers and the smell of the diesel, the smell of the concrete. It takes you back to previous things. It's inevitable.
Well, so then 4 years after that, you're here back in Oklahoma. You're on the OU campus for the bomb that went off during the football game. Walk me through the process of finding out that the bomb had gone off.
Well, times were changing. Terrorism was now in the forefront. The FBI had adopted a national joint terrorism task force structure. As I said, the Bureau trains and certifies all of our non-military bomb technicians. And we have bomb technicians here with Norman, OU, kind of a joint bomb squad. They're great. They work the games. I was sitting at home at my desk, actually, and one of them called me at home. And that's the relationship we try to have with all of our bomb techs, is that personal relationship. So they called me and said, something's happened at the stadium, and the level of training the FBI has is really remarkable. They said, we could tell from the sound this was a high explosive. Low explosives and high explosives act differently, they sound differently. And most IEDs in this country utilize low explosives. So the fact that they thought this was high explosive, just from the brisance, kind of put us on edge. National intelligence had said that sporting events, malls, shopping areas, concerts were now a target since we had hardened transportation nodes like trains and airports. So this was fitting our intel that there would be a problem at a sporting event. So I deployed. I was en route to Norman when my office called and said something happened. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm already done. Again, because of those relationships, which are critical. But when we showed up, of course, there was just a part of the remains of an individual that was the bomber. But having seen a lot of explosions, this was different. There were the pieces where we usually look for in an IED weren't present. Well, we had been preparing for a new type of explosive. Terrorists were using something called triacetone triperoxide, or TATP, in the Middle East. It had been used in London and Brussels. So we were preparing for it, but it had never been used as a main charge here. Early in the morning, ERT and the Joint Terrorism Task Force developed information that this student, who was the remains of whom we'd found there just outside the stadium, had an apartment. So the exigent circumstance, we didn't know if there were other people, other bombs. So myself and 2 bomb techs from the Norman OU team made entry looking for other people and booby traps and other bombs. And we found a significant quantity of what I believed was TATP, which is strange because it had never been used as a main charge in this country before. But there's a plan. We initiated that plan. We flew out 2 FBI chemists who are world-renowned experts in peroxide-based explosives. and used a tool that had never left the lab before. It projects a laser and into the material without detonating it, and gives you a little histogram, and it was in fact this unique TATP. It was again another kind of first.
Yeah. Walk me through, so I know your son went to school here. Walk me through what it's like being back on campus to the scene of 2005.
Yeah, it was great when I was driving here past ASP. That's the route I took to get to the stadium. The bomb was on the west side, just outside where they used to have. It was on the oval where people would congregate at halftime. And again, that was what was unique back then. They had the halftime pass out, so people would have been in that area. It detonated 7 minutes before halftime, so 7 minutes made a big difference.
Yeah, the theory is that it went off early.
Everybody has a theory.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Okay.
This material is exceptionally sensitive, and the way I believe the bomb was constructed, it appears to me, it's called being primed. There was some people that think he was going to commit suicide. Suicide by IED is just not common.
Yeah.
And the volume of this highly sensitive, highly volatile material that he carried from the apartment to this location, there were other places to do it if there wasn't a broader plan. And our profilers in the behavioral analysis unit, of course, we took his computer and recovered all the data, and they said that the last thing on there was a suicide note, but they didn't know, they couldn't tell from the verbiage if there were going to be other casualties intended.
So following this, you did a lot of time globally. Talk me through your experiences Africa and all around the world.
I was very fortunate. I got to do things I didn't even know we could do because of the experience, the post-blast experience. I was honored to be named a master bomb technician for the Bureau and later a master police instructor. So I would travel abroad and assess with the State Department other nations' capabilities to detect and prevent or resolve a terrorist attack involving explosives. So I was in North Africa after the Arab Spring, worked out of our embassy in Tunisia after it had been overrun. South Africa, I was in Somalia, in Mogadishu, several trips to the Middle East. I got to work on every continent but Antarctica. So it was fascinating work. I was very fortunate.
Well, I don't think there will be any bomb threats in Antarctica soon.
Right.
I can't confirm or deny.
Yeah, I may try to go down there just so I can hit every
Check
continent.
the penguins,
right,
make sure they're on.
exactly.
So these days you're now at the University of Central Oklahoma. You're giving back and teaching from what you learned in your experiences. What's it like doing that now?
I really enjoy it. I had never anticipated teaching at the college level. The last few years of my career, I was an instructor for NATO, did a lot of counterintelligence, counterterrorism training for the military in other parts of the world. So teaching college was just never on my horizon. But Dr. Dwight Adams had helped start the Forensic Science Institute there at University of Central Oklahoma. And shortly before I retired, he said, hey, why don't you come up and teach courses here? And I thought I would try it, and I enjoy it. The students are highly motivated, and they're sort of the future of this vocation.
What do you think your students take away from having Barry Black as their instructor?
Well, I think I'm the fortunate one, right? They're eager to learn. I have a lot of talented cohorts there. I just try to do my part and try to round out that education.
So, and then the next recent step in the last couple months, we've had your memoir release.
Right.
You've added author to your long resume. What inspired hazardous devices and the memoir behind it?
When I was little, as I said, since I was a kid, I wanted to be in the FBI. And one of my best friends told me when I got my letter to Quantico, you're going to forget all the cool stuff. I know you too well. You'll forget it. So she said, start taking notes, write stuff down. And I did. So as I would be on a plane from Uzbekistan or Nepal, I would have plenty of time to just jot down the food, what we were doing, the people we met, anything unusual, and thought maybe my son, who is an OU alum, might be interested one day, or maybe his kids, if he has kids, down the road. So I put it together in just kind of a chronology of stories, and then didn't know what to do with it. So I stuck it in a drawer and didn't really know until I was asked to write a forensic science textbook by the Spubson Company, which I'd never considered either. But I said, hey, in the interim, I've got this compilation of stories. What do you think? And it turned into a book.
Did it feel more like writing this book, or did it feel like more of putting the pieces back together?
Putting the pieces together. And this was, I was in the FBI before we had laptops, so it was, notes on napkins and, scraps of paper that I just squirreled away in different places. So it took some time to compile it all. Yeah. And then, I'm an accountant, so it's kind of in chronological order. But it was kind of just a labor of love, really, to put things in one place. Again, really, I thought my son might want it one day, and I was thrilled that a publishing company was interested.
What was it like reliving the experiences as you were putting this together?
I got to tell you, when I started going through it, I realized how much I was gone and how much my family put up with. There was one time I got off one plane here, had another suitcase already packed in my car at the airport, changed suitcases and got back on another aircraft. So when I landed from one of my last trips, I got a text from the airline that said, thanks for flying 1,000,000 miles with us. So I was gone a lot, and that's really what struck me.
What do you hope the readers take away from this?
Well, set your goals high, and if you do the work, good things will happen. And the world's a dangerous place, but most people are good. So you got to look for the good in people.
So after 31 years in the FBI, what is the one most valuable lesson that you took away?
Confidence in yourself, right? You have to trust yourself, your training. In this line of work, personal safety is important. I tell my students now, there will always be a safety officer, there'll always be a security officer, but you still have to be aware of your surroundings and make sure you go home at night.
Well, Barry, I want to thank you for coming in. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, it's my pleasure. The book's available widely, and I hope readers enjoy it.
Yeah, Hazardous Devices can be found on Amazon, Walmart, and in bookstores. Barry, thank you again for your time.
My pleasure.
Michael, we'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lyndon, and thank you for joining us, Barry. Thank you for watching Sooner Stories. You can join us next week for another edition.